Jay Massey is a full-time real estate investor. He's an entrepreneur.
He also teaches people how to find deals, raise capital for real estate investments.
Meeting Jay Massey in person, you'd think he's just a regular guy. He's got jeans and a t-shirt on and a pair of sneakers. But he's built up a multi-million-dollar empire.
I hope you do have an empty notebook because it's going home filled.
Jay gives back so much value that I've never seen.
Now, at this moment, when I'm looking at the kitchen, things are going through my head.
You want to be friends with him, and he treats you like you're the only person in the room, even though it's for the benefit of everybody.
This is how, when you ask yourself, how does Jay do it? This is how.
He tells people that they have to take action, and they have to take action now. I took the action, and the results have paid off.
What happens when the marketplace understands who we are and how we go out there?
All right, guys. Hopefully things are going well. Happy, was it Tuesday? We are in the middle of September. It is absolutely crazy that I would say it's already September, but I don't know how 2020 has been for you. But I know for me, it has felt like year-long months. So I want to say, oh my gosh, it's already September, but it doesn't quite feel like that. Anyway, for those of you joining for the first time, welcome. Hi, my name is Jay, CEO of Cashflow Diary. What we do is we help individuals become entrepreneurs. I strongly believe that it is entrepreneurs who are going to create new jobs, and those new jobs are going to be the thing that recovers every economy. So for those of you who have wanted to become an entrepreneur, or more importantly, thought about the idea of developing cash flow in some way, shape, or form, that's kind of what we do. And yeah, it's fun. So that's why we are live today to answer any questions that you guys happen to type in the chat. So for those of you watching on YouTube, Facebook, etc., just go ahead and type in the chat any questions that you have. We will definitely get to that section. Additionally, for those of you who are brand new, like maybe this is the first time you've seen us live, definitely go ahead and type the word new in the chat, because we would definitely like to talk to you and welcome you. And thank you for taking the time to not only be here today, but to share us with your friends. At the end of the day, what we're going to do today is kind of one of my favorite things to do, but it's also one of the nerdy things to do. What does that mean? We're going to go through what I call the DIP process. So we're going to go from data to information and to interpretation. And that is a process that we use to determine what could be some of the changes you would want to make, if any, with your short-term rental business as it relates to making sure that it stays sustainable, it continues to grow, and that you have that an asymmetric upside if it's available to you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for those of you, like I said, joining for the first time, that's kind of what we're going to do today, but we will definitely make time for your questions as well. And if you've got something that you wish to ask, just go ahead and do so. Or you can go to cashflowdiary.com/ask, cashflowdiary.com/ask. Type in your question there, and we'll do our best to get that quote unquote on the air and answered as well. All right. So, okay. We have a very interesting situation going on. What do I mean by that? It is time for this particular document. You know, guys, how we go through month after month, the travel tracker and information regarding how is travel, how is the industry globally in this case, but how is the industry as a whole, how is it actually performing? What is it that I might be able to expect? What are some of the trends, especially in the United States, as a, I would say region, but from a global standpoint, that's what I mean. But nationally, how is that performing? What is it that I can look forward to in my geographic area that might be a competitive advantage in some way, shape, or form? Now, many of you, you may have been through one of these before, and I say it that way simply because it can feel like an overwhelming amount of information in a very short period of time. That's one, because it is. Two, because what I am intending to do is to take what are very comprehensive research reports that often can be, some would find boring to read, but I find quite interesting and fun, and giving you the highlights of what's necessary in order for you to keep taking the necessary or next steps as it relates to continuing to build and structure and make your business profitable. So if that is of interest to you and you want to make sure that you have the ability to participate in the recovery, if you will, in the sense of having your short-term rental business participate in the recovery, that's kind of what we're going to be doing today, along with answering your questions. So I see a number of you in the chat. Hello, Latoya, someone who's named themselves Paper Towel. That is That's amazing. That's awesome. Gotta love the internet. And then I see Renette. How are you? And then I see LaShawn. What is going on? What is this? Bill says he is taking possession of his next unit on Saturday. Yes, there you go, Bill. Man after my own heart. When we're talking about stuff like that, we want more of those. Please continue to do exactly that. Everyone needs more jobs in the marketplace, and that's what you are up to. What is this? Do you think one should wait until after Corona? Oh, after slow season now till January, to start the January awards instead. Okay, got it. That is the perfect question, Mr. Paper Towel. That is Paper Towel with the perfect question. Just sounds funny to me. Anyway, that's exactly why we do this report. The whole point here is to go through reports that we have access to, or that anybody could actually get access to, if you want to pay for it anyway. But you have to take that data and turning that data into information, and then at the interpretation point to give some suggestions, or hey, this is the play that I see based upon the data that is here, right? So if you go back through our streams, you'll see this all. I mean, we've been doing the Tuesday live thing or some sort of live thing for about 6-7 years, to where we're doing things like this, breaking down real estate transactions, working through all the details to help people continue to move forward. So that is the idea, is to give you an idea of how to exactly what data can you base that decision on, not just an emotion. So you're going to want to get your notepad, iPad, tablet, something going so that you have a shot at capturing the information. Well, first question, what is the rest of my shirt? That's right. You can't see the entire shirt today. Hold on one second. There you go. So there it is. Ha! Ta-da! There you go. Now, there you go, Bill. You saw that. And then, let's see. Renette says, I just opened 2 back-to-back due to demand. Renette, I would definitely love to know geographically, like the state that you're referring to. Like when you guys say stuff like that, please give me the either state or country, or city and state and country, because I know, again, we've currently have students in 17 different countries with this particular strategy anyway. And it will help me for context when you say stuff like that. So that way I can confirm or give you some additional thoughts that I may have about a particular geographic area. Do you have to lower your prices? You are in the right. You are just striking gold today. We will go through the data on that as well, because that is a part of this report. So don't even worry, no stress. We will definitely be handling that situation as well, because you want to know, right? What do I have to do still to get reservations? I hear you, man. And we're going to be talking about that, or woman. I don't know. Paper towel is definitely not gender neutral. Oh my goodness. Oh, let's see. No, made enough money to open 2 new ones back to back. Okay, that's good. That's good. What is this? It says Jay feeling the cardio. Yes, exactly. My cardio is running a company. Although as many of you know, if you've been following along, I have discovered that I enjoy cycling, and we now have the Peloton treadmill as well. And believe it or not, I'm discovering that I'm like, hey, this isn't so bad. I did not envision that I didn't know, honestly, if I would like it, but because I would never call myself a runner, if you will. And indeed, I still can't. I still wouldn't, because I'm doing more of the walking training than I am the running training. So I'm literally walking before I run. So it is what it is. All right. So you are in Utah. Okay, perfect. That gives me some insight. And Paper Towel, London. All right, perfect. Thank you. That gives me, again, some insight as well. Was that getting customers from California? Yes, we're going to talk about that too. And I'm going to show a lot of people why that is and where to. Anyway, as we get into the reports today, we've got 2 reports to go through. Keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming, because that's going to make this Well, honestly, the more comments you guys do, what tends to happen is that I tend to give you more information and go longer because that's just typically what happens. Nonetheless, with that being said, let's dive into this stuff because I want to get started here for sure. All right, where is it? All right. So it is this screen. Boom. So for those of you who this may be the first time, you're like, what is that? There's a company out there by the name of Skift, Skift. In fact, let me pull up their homepage for you in case you care, because they have a significant amount of complimentary free information, if you will, that if you want to go get it, and they produce high quality research reports that are used by a number of companies, airlines, hotels, cruise lines, etc., in the hospitality industry. I actually also like their daily, that they've got a 4-minute version of their podcast that they release every day, or I should say every weekday, which I also enjoy as well, because it's a quick way to get some ideas of something I may want to pay attention to. If you are that type of person, then yes, this is where a lot of this information is coming from. And what they developed back towards the beginning of the whole pandemic situation is a recovery index. So kind of a, hey, here's where we are as we go through this situation compared to where we were in 2019. 2019 is the base year, if you will. So compared to 2019, this is where we are now, right? So it's clear to see the cliff. You see where that was. Many of you who are already in the industry, you were freaking out around somewhere near the bottom of that cliff. Like I would say somewhere over here, maybe is when the freak out was occurring, and towards the bottom, and you were like, I can't take it. Yeah, I understand. It was not good. It just wasn't. And you didn't really know, and nobody did. And we were all working it out together. And we did. Congrats. So that's just pretty much how that went. So now we're on to hopefully bigger and better things as we continue to move forward. All right. So what does that mean? That means compared to where we were, we are, and it's been pretty much like that, as you can see. What is that? That looks like since around late May, June, we've been pretty much in that spot, right? That's just pretty much where it is. We've just been pretty much in that spot. It hasn't really gone anywhere, hasn't really changed. It hasn't really fluctuated. I know you've heard things like the V recovery and some of you, if you've been paying attention to some of our inner circle stuff, you've heard the K recovery, which is way more true, especially when you start to look at things like this. What does this mean? It just means nothing has changed in the last few months. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, things are probably not going to change for a little bit as well. But let's just let the data do the talking. That way you know where I'm saying and why I'm saying things like this. So every month or so, Skift puts out reports, and we're going to look at, we're going to overview two of them. This one is the July travel tracker, only because the August one is not yet out. Otherwise, we'd be looking at the August one if it was already available. But once the August one comes out, obviously, we'll be looking at that one. Anyway, so when we're looking at July, this general summary, as you can see, it's at the top. Summer vacation main driver despite new case surge, which is exactly what we expected. That's 100%. If you go back a couple of months, and you'll see where we were talking about through the research reports that basically said and stated, oh, I just realized I made that too small for you guys to see, that where it basically stated that for when travel experiences a hiccup, especially hiccups of this kind, the first type of travel to return is leisure travel. And it just, quote unquote, just so happened that leisure travel coincided with our leisure travel season. So that should not surprise any of you who have been here for any length of time in under any circumstances whatsoever. So again, 35% of Americans traveled in July. But as we've also pointed out, Most are not taking their typical summer vacations. They're not traveling this typical way they do. They're not going to the typical destinations. Those changes indeed are happening. So let's get through this. Scroll. Here's one of the first things to notice is that whoops, that went way too big, too fast. Okay. Is however you want to look at that, a change in the percentage of population who have been traveling. So we definitely were never, obviously back in January. So normally this right here, it goes up, especially after February. So January, maybe a little down in February. And then we typically in a normal market would tend to see that spot right there tend to start to go up. But obviously that did not happen for all of the reasons you guys are already aware as it relates to as COVID became more of a thing that we needed to be prepared for and to understand. It drastically affected travel. So many people confuse and conflate the two things that, hey, because people aren't traveling, there's no need for a short-term rental, which is actually not accurate, which is, I guess that's a good thing because that's how our business gets done. Either way, it doesn't mean there wasn't changes. It doesn't mean it didn't affect. And that's exactly what this is showing. It is showing that there was an effect and it's still here. What's really important to understand for most of you who might be looking at this data, wondering why I'm spending so much time on it, is that typically what would happen here in terms of percent travel, it would typically go up. And because it went up, rates would go up. Because rates would go up, occupancy would stay the same or go higher than what it was before. And as it came back down towards some of the later months, that extra revenue and income would be there to support operators through their slower seasons. So we're just going to keep looking at this. But that's something I want to make sure you keep in mind as we continue to go through. Is basically for all intents and purposes, when you do the math of it all, what happened, or it is the equivalent of operators having to survive through 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 consecutive slow seasons. That is what you're preparing for. It's like because we had just exited it slow season, right? And instead of getting our normal high, we went through an artificially created slow season, and we're on our way into another slow season. That's really kind of what it's going to feel like as you continue going forward. So we are on the way into our third slow season because high season was not really representative of what a normal high season would be. Nor could it be. So again, this little chart surprises nobody in terms of purpose for travel. This is, however, over here, this little doodad hickey thingy is what I wanted to see over here. That didn't work at all. So over on the where it says business, convention, travel, trade show, this over here, this area over here is what I want you to see, because this is the problem. This is where the problem exists, is that typically the purpose for travel, especially around this time of year, this is where we would be seeing a significant bump from this right here. So between the convention, conference, and trade show traffic just literally not existing and general business being down, this is in essence, the quote unquote problem with some types of travel. And we're going to get into that. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But as for those of you who are planning and projecting your revenues, understand what was normal is not the case. So this is also indicative. It surprises nobody that the airlines are hurting and continuing. So it didn't get better, is basically where we're coming from. Because again, they're also highly dependent upon business. And it's not improving in the way that it needs to or eventually will, which suggests there needs to be a fundamental, and hear me clearly, there needs to be a fundamental change to the structure of how flights and the cost structure that airlines are running. And I know the CEOs know this. However, we haven't yet, we meaning the market, hasn't yet received the impact of it because of the funds that they were given, the funds from the government. It has so far in all of the reports prevented them from actually effecting the layoffs that they actually wanted to make back in March, if you will, March and April. So what does that mean? That means it's probably likely to get worse before it gets better, because the airlines in general have a lot of laying off to do, and their expiration for the money that they took is coming up in about 15 days. So in about 15 days, if you haven't already seen, expect to see lots of changes in the airline industry in and of itself. The good news, though, the distribution upon where, quote unquote, people are going has seemed to be, it's been across the board. People have been choosing, hey, well, maybe I do want to go to the city now. I will say, you'll notice that the urban destinations are kind of the ones that are down the most, meaning people are not exactly preferring the city experience right now, which again surprises nobody, or should surprise very few if you've been paying attention to the reports, but you get the idea. And woohoo, to some degree, the idea of a hotel is beginning to like, oh, okay, well, maybe I won't die, so I'll do it. However, what I really want you to understand is this right here between the private residence, the vacation rental, there is a definite surge because, again, you can see it. It's not, and I expect this trend to only continue. There's a change in preference of when I do go somewhere, where do I want to stay, right? I know that I don't want a hotel, but I am open to something else. What might that be, right? So just understand that trend that is not going to change. And while this number, 6, 4, 6, 2, 6, 11, 10% sounds like a small number, we're talking about a small number on a very big pie, which is another way of saying the demand. We didn't have enough inventory before COVID as short-term rentals, and the amount of short-term rentals that, left the market is between COVID and ordinances and whatnot. Because politicians think I don't know what they think. Anyway, I know they didn't help. Then the number of units that have left the marketplace has only created a situation in which in most geographic areas, there's still a shortage. And that is now worse than it was before. Again, this should surprise very few people that most people have either canceled, rescheduled, postponed travel. That is still happening. That has not really changed. People are just going, you know what? I'll wait. They're making, what does that mean? Translation. If you see your calendar is vacant far out or even more than 3 weeks out, it's probably okay right now because people are truly making the last minute decisions as much as they possibly can in order to continue, because they just want to make sure nothing else is going to happen. Right. Someone else was asking earlier, what about the discounts? Interestingly, there's been lots of experiment with discounts. What is coming up by seeing numbers as low as this, meaning people are traveling because there's a discount, seeing numbers as low as 7, 6, 8, 9%. What that is indicative of is that there is no price. There really is no price that you can discount to that will say, yes, I actually want to go travel, which suggests that there's something else in the marketplace that is that will encourage people to travel, but pricing is not necessarily it. So depending on your region, discounting might not necessarily be the thing you need to do in order to make that work. Because we have the situation such that the economic condition for the next 12 months, people don't necessarily, well, it hasn't really changed. It's been kind of the same, except the two highlighted areas. There's a lot more people who think it's going to be much worse, as I said earlier, and less people who think it's going to get better. That has been the thing. There's been a general consensus amongst the consumer that this is going to last a lot longer than what we originally thought. And yeah, it kind of makes sense. Right. And in fact, that that same trend line tracks all the way through with their own personal finances as well. And again, this chart is just referring to people are waiting to the last minute to say that, yeah, in the next couple of months, I expect to spend more money, but then on travel, but then I expect to not spend any for quite some time. We have a significant amount of what would be called pent up demand right now for travel and the services of travel. Yet they still can't go anywhere for the most part. They can't go anywhere, don't want to go anywhere, can't travel to the place that they would ordinarily go, because that's really the biggest thing. They just cannot travel to the place that they would ordinarily go, specifically travel in the way that they would normally like to travel, which in this case primarily is by airplane. Again, we've got the same situation as it relates to those who are concerned. We still got the same number for all intents and purposes, same number of people who are concerned and whose life has been impacted. And then this is probably the one that's like, oh, because this is what's changing the most drastically. At the beginning of this whole thing, there were a significant number of people who were like, oh, this is going to be over with really quick. I don't know why they thought that. I'm not here to argue the merits of who's right and who's wrong. I don't really care. My point is, my business, your business, all business depends on what the consumer thinks. If the consumer does not think that, hey, it's going to be safe, they're not doing it. So it doesn't matter. And that's what you and I need to be aware of as we continue to go out there. If the consumer believes it's going to last longer, then I better make sure that I'm pricing appropriately, that I'm expanding at the appropriate rates, so that I can make sure that cash flow is how the business works, right? So that those revenues are just what they need to be in order to continue to make things move forward. Okay. I still find this funny that we're tracking this, that the expected time when personal life will be back to normal, that normal is gone. Okay, just please let it go. Just let it go. I just think it's easier. It's easier to restructure, start from zero. What would it need to look like today if I was making all my decisions all over anew? What would it need to look like? I get I get you. And there's a new thing coming. A new thing is trying to be born for all intents and purposes at the end of the day. And again, this is just more people putting off planning of travel. So we're going to switch to the other report, but I want to check to see some of your questions if you guys have any, because as you can see, I'm going through this information really, really quickly, right? It's because I'm taking the data. The data is the chart. It's the numbers. It's like, cool. I see the numbers. They look pretty. What does it mean? Okay. And that's where the newspaper comes in. Oftentimes the news will tell you what the information means or what they think it means, but they don't then tell you, what do I do with that information? Okay, cool. This is up 5%. That's up 20%. Wonderful. What do I do? Right. For the most part, again, there's nothing in that first report that says, oh my God, don't start your short-term rental, like literally nothing. But there is information that does say, when you do start your short-term rental, here's what you can expect. And more importantly, for some of you, you need to expand because there's just not enough inventory. That is coming. That comes through loud and clear to me, and is something that you might want to strongly consider. Now, you also, if you hearing in between the lines, is that such a thing? I don't know. You heard me mention that individuals are still traveling, but they're not traveling where they would normally want to go or how they normally would want to travel. So that begs the question, well, how are they traveling? Got it. Totally understood. Let's look at this second report here in a moment, and we will understand some more as well. Now, before I do that, let me see. Let's see. I see some comments about escaping the fires. LaShawn, you're going to have to wait on the t-shirt info. We are working on that. Okay. We are working on that. Let's see. Paper towel. I've got a 5-bedroom deal on the table, but it's my first deal, so I'm scared. Oh, got it. Like, who books a 5-bedroom? Surely much more bookings for a 1 to 3-bedroom. Okay, got it. So one, you're in London. So give me a second. I've got to adjust my brain for, okay, got it. So here's the good news. In fact, this next report is going to show you some of that as it relates to how people are traveling over in your neck of the woods. That is one of the things that you guys have that is currently statistically better than what's going on over here in the United States, is how people are able to travel from a domestic standpoint. Being able to travel domestically is completely different than being able to travel internationally or definitely across seas. So you'll see that. Now, to your point, in a normal, what I will call normal or historically normal market, a 1 to 3 is somewhere where I would slant towards as well. However, here's what is happening. Because individuals have, and again, you can look at some of our prior reports where we've gone through this, but there are certain demographics, specifically those who are traveling with children under the age of 18, who are preferring larger properties right now because they want everybody to be in one spot. They want to have everybody together and they want to be away from a crowd, which can lend itself to your, would you say, 5-bedroom. Secondly, here's a thought, just take this for what it's worth. Even in London, here's what I know is true. Somewhere today, like literally today, somebody's house pipe burst and their insurance company is looking to find a place for them to stay. Historically, the insurance companies have used hotels for people to stay. And most of the hotels today are not as open as they once were. They're just not even in operation. So the insurance companies are having trouble placing people, which means with the right connections, et cetera, you can now, and because we've done a lot of this, have someone staying in a 4, 5, 6-bedroom house because that's where they normally would stay. And someone's got to go remediate the hole in the pipes and stuff. So just understand, while I hear you, you're starting with the real estate. You're starting with the real estate first. It's not about the real estate first. It's about who do you want to serve. Once you understand who do you want to serve will drive which real estate you should use or shouldn't use, which is likely why you're experiencing the trepidation, is because you're just not yet, keywords, clear on who that is. Once you get clear on who that is, you can get more confident with your decisions, right? If you knew the volume of parents that were traveling right now with children under the age of 18 and whatnot, and you had that demographic and you understood them, and that's who you were looking to serve, you would feel way more confident about a 5-bedroom spot, right? And additionally, I mean, I can do this for a long time. There's also those who are in different socioeconomic classes. So on the higher end, they're still traveling. They are still traveling. So, and they really, not only do they want to be alone, they have the resources to pay for it. So that is still happening. So these are all things to be thinking about as you're considering going through the process. Anyway, in fact, though, I will say this: if you look in the, I don't know where they put it. Hopefully, it's either above or below. Somewhere around this video is a link, because we're going to be doing a 2-day intensive how to break all this stuff down and get your business started type of situation. So if that's of interest to you, you're just going to want to click that link and register. All right. Let me see who else. Who are you serving? By the way, I've been terrified with each and every one. I'm up to 6, totally normal. Oh, yeah. Feeling afraid. That's part of the course. Welcome to being an entrepreneur. Yay. My sister and her 9 children. Oh, wow. I have 4. I'm good. 9. Nope. I'm so good. During school times, I assume they would not be traveling that much. Yes, I hear that, but understand the operative word is an assumption. because while, yeah, it may not be families traveling with small children, I know there are many different demographics. For example, and again, it would take, but here's a completely out of left field. That's a baseball reference. Okay. I said that only because you're in London. Anyway, that I would say is many employers are renting spaces like a short-term rental for their employees to work, because again, they're learning things like, hey, my employee's house was never set up to be the office it needs to be. So I hear you. And I also know, I mean, there's too much information and data that says it is possible. And there's nothing that I'm ever going to tell you that's going to make the fear go away. Right. So if you're saying, I don't want to get comfortable with fear, I want to feel perfect, then I'm ready to start, then you're never starting. That's the truth of the matter. Okay. I want you to start because every economy needs more jobs, period. And that fear ain't going nowhere, but you can learn to have that same level of interest and energy, but directed towards a completely different emotion, which could give you a completely different result. The stimulus can be the same, my friend, and you can end up somewhere different. So hopefully that works out. What is this? I was expecting that I'd rely on business people, contractors. Yeah, totally understood. And I'm not saying you eventually won't. I'm not saying they're not there. I don't know the levels. What I don't know is what the level of construction looks like over there in London, because that could be the very thing. Because one other things that is happening, okay, is hotels again and office are hiring a significant number of architectural firms. Why? Because they have to relay out, they have to reposition their floor plans. They now have they're thinking about things like hallways that are one way, like literally having a hallway that is you go this way and hallways that are designed to go this way. That's how you circulate the office. No more going left or right out of every door situation. What does that mean? That means they got a lot of work to do, new space planning, all this other stuff. There's only so many architectural firms and they're all being hired. So they're going to be traveling. There's people that are going to be there. And your assumptions have to start with, who is it that you're looking to serve? And there's much more to understanding that than just saying, contractors. Okay, cool. Well, how old is the contractor? How many children do they have? How many houses? Do they live in a house? Are they a renter? What magazines do they read? What are the 12 conventions that they normally go to? And when are those conventions? Do you understand what I'm saying? There's just a significant amount of data that you need on any particular potential customer profile before you can make any solid decision, right? And even after that, nothing guarantees that you'll get it right, but you'll be in a better position to listen and to learn from that person as they show up. So that's the thing that I know. I know that there's not enough inventory. People, yes, are still traveling. And there's an opportunity for the brave, for the ones who are willing to provide the jobs. And we're here to encourage as many as possible to do exactly that, because providing jobs is really what's going to make the difference. It's what we can do, right? It's what I can do. I can help you learn how to provide jobs using short-term rentals. All right, let's get back to this second report because we got not enough time to get through it all. So we're also going to look at some of the parts of the recovery index that have been analyzed, which is another way of saying, hey, what is the recovery index telling us? Well, it's telling us that it's flat right now. It's like it went down like a roller coaster, and then it just went wee. It's not really doing much, unfortunately, and there's nothing you or I can do about it. Not yet. We have a ways to go. And the sooner the better. I know we all want it done yesterday, but there's nothing that we can do, you and I can do, to make it go better. But what we can do is we can try to position ourselves to be able to help solve the problem. That we can do. We can do lots of that. Okay. Now, and this is where it's going to get really, really interesting, because I know some of the results that many of you are generating out there and some of the things that you have heard. And you're like, how does all of this come out and work together? So one of the first thing to look at is this. This is where the biggest challenge is right here. Passenger throughput is at 25% of pre-COVID levels. Said another way, we are 75% less than where we normally would be. 75% fewer potential customers who are traveling internationally is specifically what we're talking about here. So understand that that's a problem. All right. And because if they're not coming into the US, they're also not leaving the US, going to your country. And this is a problem, like a problem. There is no other way of saying it. It's like, ouch. But that's really what it comes down to. Now, if I don't know what's going on, but somehow Russia has managed to figure out how to get more bookings for their flights. I suspect, and again, you'll see this in a chart, it has to do with domestic travel. But yeah, I think we would all like that. Unfortunately, it ain't like that right now. Not yet. So we'll figure it out though. And then, oh yeah, that's right. There's been reports from many of the Chinese hotels. Like I know Marriott just put out a report over the weekend where they were talking about how their occupancy and reservations and those types of things are getting back to, again, their pre-COVID levels. Great. But you'll see why that's kind of not so good, or it's not actually like, oh, everything is fine. I'll show you in a second. As we continue. Was this the one I wanted? Yes. So earlier I had said around how are people, what are people doing in terms of travel? They are traveling, but as I said back in April and May, when they travel, they are going to travel by car. So any travel that you're getting is likely by car. So that means if you are contiguous to another country and you can get there by car, you probably got a shot, right? Whereas if it's dependent upon airplane, like for those of you who are in Australia and Hawaii even, because again, these are islands, right? It's like the travel gonna be a bit challenging unless it's from and it originated from the destination, as well as origination point is on the island. That's pretty much what you got, which in Hawaii's case, it's really scary, right? Not so much. I mean, less so in Australia, but still scary, but less so, simply because we're talking population differences, etc., and number of people. Where's it going? So people are driving now. The question when I look at this and things like this, in fact, a couple of months ago, I'm like, okay, cool. If people are going to drive, what does that mean? What does that mean? That means for me, some of the things I want to make sure is that we got the adequate number of parking spots. That maybe if I can get some extra parking spots. And when we do have people, sell those parking spots, sell extra parking spots if we can, to offset some potential revenue loss in terms of my ADR, average daily rate. We're going to get to that in a second. Additionally, if people are driving, are they going to be as willing to take transportation like an Uber or Lyft? The answer is no. That doesn't mean that Uber and Lyft are going to go away. It just means that people, if they have a preference, are they going to prefer an Uber or Lyft as much as they used to? Or might they prefer a rental vehicle? Which then led me to the very natural conclusion of, well, how can I provide some rental vehicles? Which is exactly one of the things inside of it's one of the things that we've been beginning to start, not only do ourselves, but again, like I said, we practice what we teach. So for those that are being taught, we're adding this to the mix and to help increase not only revenues, but also the attractiveness of any one location. So that those who are staying longer, when they're staying longer now, it's like two birds, one stone, one price, a little bit easier to deal with. Anyway, leveraging this trend for the benefit of occupancy and revenue, right? Because that's ultimately what it comes down to. And again, this chart this chart surprises nobody, right? Surprises nobody. So long story short, it's the revenues in Q2 2020. And by the way, this is a bar chart, meaning bar charts normally go north, not all south. So I know it can look like, hey, why does it go? Oh, that's creative. They made it all go down. No, that is the amount of revenue in billions of dollars with a B, for those of you wondering, that each of those sections of travel have not received. Billions, as in lots of money, right? And it's clear, obviously, the airlines have a problem. And I say that problem got compounded when they weren't allowed to lay off the people that they ordinarily would have. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 30, 60 days as well. So that's, not good. All right, let's keep going, because I don't want to be all negative, but hey, I'm just going to be what it is. Now, this is also interesting to me that because what we're talking about is international. So again, now we're splitting it up: international versus domestic. International versus domestic. I, again, don't know what Russia's doing, but whatever they did, they're clearly doing it right, because they got their domestic revenue per kilometer. Revenue per kilometer, meaning paying customers, paying passengers. They are figuring it out really quickly, because that's exactly what this really large upline is all about. Is that's who's figuring out their domestic version. As you can see, the U.S. we're tracking in the same slope and rates as Brazil, which is okay, all right, but it's not like we're making it's not it's not that great. So we still have a ways to go in order to get back to where we could be, need to be, etc. And as you can see, international is we'll just call that on life support, maybe. I don't even know, because I mean, you're just like, that's the flattest of flat lines. I'd have to zoom in so far to see a difference. It'd be crazy, right? So again, this international side over here, if your destinations are dependent upon international flights, consider strongly. Consider strongly. You need a way to have domestic travel. That's really what this is saying at the end of the day. So hopefully that makes some sense. All right, let's go to this. Let's do this. Let's see, average. No, that's not hotel. Okay, got it. So also not surprising, but this is also important. What you see here is the hotel recovery, if you will, in terms of occupancy. So if we're looking back over when it started, occupancy went through the floor, right? And as I told you earlier, when we're looking at occupancy, I said that it would normally be going up, right? Right after, was it at the end of February, March, etc. That's what didn't happen, right? And because that didn't happen, we have a number of other compounding issues. Is that even though rates in general, average daily rate, what a room was actually reserved for, even though that barely went down, or well, that is a lot of money still, 23% or so. It did go down, but it's come back up, and I've seen that true. It's still not where it needs to be, because we're used to it being up here. What that ends up doing is it results in a net loss of the amount of revenue the building brings in total, or any particular unit, relative to what it was before. I say all that to say is that what you might be seeing, where'd it go? We'll come back to that one, because I find that one. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. What you might see is this: when you map and chart out your occupancy, you see this U-shaped recovery, because that's literally what is there. It's a U-shaped recovery. It's like, oh my gosh, yay, I'm back occupied. But being occupied does not matter when what you received is still your advertising rates that are 23 to 30% lower than what you would normally get. And what you're actually receiving is effectively 44% less than what you normally would receive for any one particular room. That is what we are dealing with. That is why the number one thing you should be paying attention to is what is known as your fixed cost as it relates to operations specifically. I'm not so much concerned about your cost on startup and build out. I'm concerned about your ongoing operational expenses is what you hopefully have been focused on and continue to focus on, because that is where the pain will be felt, right? First. And for those of you who are just now getting started, the good news is you're already going to price that in. So there's nothing for you to go and consider other than the numbers that are in front of you. So you don't have to consider, your pre-COVID units as well as the ones that you start now, right? So this right here, this is the magic right here, because people, some of your landlords or whomever will look at, they're like, but you've got all these people. That's true. And they're paying half of what they used to. Because this math is what people miss, right? You cannot measure your recovery just on occupancy alone. It doesn't work like that. So just understand. This I do find interesting, by the way, is one that a lot of the hotels, chains, etc. They've started just using social media more, not only for customer service, but also what questions they are getting regarding their customer service has changed drastically as well. I find that almost hilarious, but it does make sense because it's really clear what happened in February. See, that was cancellation month. That's we should rename that month. March is cancellation month. Woo, March got literally canceled. Yeah, that's cancel culture for you right there. Anyway, sorry, cracking myself up, but that's exactly what happened. It was traumatic for sure, to say the least. And cancellation rates are still above average, but they're not like they were. And then, as you can see, additional questions are coming in regarding what are your procedures. So please see this chart clearly. I need you to hear me, because your effective responses to these questions are what people are making the decision on whether or not they're going to travel at all. They're asking, how are you cleaning? In fact, they're probably not even asking about cleaning. They're asking about sterilization. They're asking about disinfection. They're asking about completely different terms. And if you don't yet know the difference between cleaning, sterilization, and disinfection, we've got work to do, because that's what matters to people now, right? And that's why the questions are there. I mean, you see that there's a clear interest and spike, and that's why that yellow line goes up so high and is staying so high, because that's what they're concerned about. So what does this also tell us? This also tells you that, hey, if you are still advertising things like 1 foot from the gym, they don't care right now, right? It just doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You probably would do better to answer these questions in your listing ahead of time. So if you know you're going to get questions about your COVID measures, put the answers to those common questions around your COVID measures in the listing, so they don't even have to ask, and they'll just make the reservation. If you know you're going to get a volume of questions about you being opened and or your cancellation and refund policy, especially right now, make sure that that is more prominent than it maybe has been in the past, so that they can know. This is what is going to help you not only recover your occupancy if you're still struggling with that, but also your ADR, leading to higher RevPAR, leading to more money in your bank account, leading to hopefully you going to get more market share today, because that's what it's going to take. Anyway, I could keep going. Like I said, I like this stuff a lot, probably more than maybe I should. Who knows? And I also know that what we need to do right now is you guys, you've got decisions to make and things to get done, right? Because you've got, well, honestly, work to do, as they say. And hopefully you're deciding that one of the things that you need to do is to investigate, maybe even learn a little bit more about how this whole business works. Because on the other end of figuring this out, not only will you be a part of the solution, by providing jobs, you'll likely be in a better position from a financial standpoint as well. To that effect, we are having a 2-day, just 2 days. This week starts Thursday. It's going to be delivered over 8 sessions. It's going to come at you hard and fast, very similar to what you just experienced, and in terms of quantity and amount of information, but definitely clear direction and what it is you need to do to begin to build yourself into a short-term rental entrepreneur. What you're going to want to do is just click the link in the, it should be somewhere near the video. I just don't know. It's either above or below. I just never know. Either way, you weren't going to click that. Go register, and we'll definitely see you there. We start at 8 a.m. on Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, I should say. So let's go through the chat here. See if there's anything else that I have not yet mentioned or seen. Someone was talking about escaping the fires. I know the air quality around here has not been great at all. That's the thing that has me like individually, personally, the most concerned is just air quality. That's what started my whole Peloton thing, is I was thinking I need to work on my lung capacity, having asthma, all this other stuff. I'm like, got some work to do. And it just turned into more. It is what it is. Let's see. Business people, is this not just planning for Corona times? Do you not think in a few months' time we'll be back to old life? Okay, got it. So I'm gonna take both of those things and answer them. But they're two separate things. Is this not just planning for Corona times? No, it's not just planning for Corona times. One of the best things about the short-term rental business, that it's like, for those of you who are traditional landlords, you'll understand exactly where I'm coming from when I say this. The advantage is, as a short-term rental operator, I can take the very same property, market it slightly differently, and attract a completely different person should that need arise. So the question is in a normal market, is there still a market for a 5-bedroom house? Yes. It's just a different person who stays there. That's all. I'm just giving you the marketing that's relevant for today. You're not going to build a one-size-fits-all approach and never change it. If that was your thought process, stop it. There's work involved that there's a reason. Just think about any department store. You want to talk about something that's in danger. That's an endangered species, literally. The department stores, they don't leave their decorations the same. It changes with the seasons. That's all this is. It's the same idea, same concept. So no, it's not. It's planning. Yes, it is planning for Corona times, because Corona times is the season. And I don't think in a few months' time, we'll be back to what you're calling the old life. The old life is gone. There'll be a new version of life, but it won't be the old life. I tend to call it the post-COVID reality. So when I think post-COVID, will there still be a need for it? Yes. Might I change some of the words in the listing? Absolutely. People might care again that there's a pool. Right now, that is not high on their list. And that's the difference. But it's still the same property, is my point. So you're not making a detrimental, unchangeable decision other than not getting started. That's the only thing. That's the big difference. It's not that there isn't revenue available today. And if you made your decision today, then you're going to mess yourself up in the future. It's the fact that you haven't made the decision that is going to mess you up today and in the future. That's probably the most dangerous thing. That's the problem. That's planning for just Corona times. You're not doing anything just because it's Corona times, when that's not even. Yeah, that's the issue. So anyway, let me see. What's this? Hey, Money, what's up? How are you? Haven't seen you at Starbucks lately, huh? Because, well, there's no way to do that right now, huh? There's just no way. Jay, do you mean including car in the short-term rental? I'm saying yes. I am saying exactly that it's packaging, bundling, auto rental as a part of the additional service to take what could be a monthly rental, say for $4,000 for, say, a 1-bedroom, and turning that into that same monthly rental, but now it's $5,500 and includes a car. Depending on the customer type that I'm talking about and the car, that has enough value to make them go, okay, great. And if you do that math, not only did I increase my RevPAR, I've captured extra profit from my revenue per reservation goes up, my revenue per person goes up, my utility, just so many things, and from a metric standpoint, improve and translate straight to the bottom line. Because as you already know, LaShawn, the room rate, accommodation rate, is the least profitable part of this whole thing, right? Just ask yourself, in the future, post-COVID, will there still be a need for it? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then cool. It solves the problem today and helps me make more money tomorrow as well. I say it's a win-win. And that's where that is. But what are the systems, how to integrate all that and market it, blah, 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 blah. That's exactly what those of us, anyway, that's what we've been building and teaching and beginning to add and helping people to understand that it's more than just the accommodation rate. Indeed, always has been. But now, how do we compete in a new marketplace? What does that look like? And I think this is just the beginning of part of it, because another part of it that I really haven't figured out is food. It's just straight food. The whole thing around how frequently people are eating out and the fact that there are significantly less restaurants right now, that is also collided, right? But if you're a personal chef, there's a very unique opportunity for you right now to prepackage food and work with operators who have the distribution mechanism to get your food into more people's hands, simply because they don't have all the choices they used to have, and the choices that they do have may not meet their dietary requirements, and they're still traveling. So there's a number of those things like that I think about. Whew, and it's like so much more that's there, but none of it matters if you don't have a unit. So I think that makes sense now. Anyway, let's see what else we got. Ooh, what is this? You're so insightful. Thank you. Incredible help. Thank you. P.S. What does post-COVID life look like to you? Well, first, thanks for the compliment. I had the privilege of creating a mess and solving problems. That's kind of that's really it. I don't consider it something special. It's just, I see a problem, and entrepreneurs, that's what we do, guys. That's what you do. You didn't tune in here just to hope to maybe, I don't know. You were looking for an answer. There it is. And because you wanted something on the other end of whatever that business is, it can do. And I want you to go try to have it for a number of reasons. One of them is you're going to provide a job to someone. You're going to be able, I remember the first time that it like hit me like a ton of bricks. I was walking one of my properties and I was just like, oh my God. Not only housing people, but they're having that Thanksgiving dinner because we made a decision years ago to get started doing all these things. That's why today they can have this place that's clean, safe, and affordable to stay. And then I started thinking about all the contractors and whatnot that it took to bring that together. The architect, just like, it was mind blowing. And it started with a decision, right? And that's the thing. There's no less of that impact available for each and every person who's willing to listen and then do to have. And that's what I want. That will help everyone's personal economy get better. So I don't know. Maybe I think about it too much. I have no idea. Post-COVID life looks a lot like pre-COVID life, with some exceptions. Because if you do just a tiny amount of study, what you'll see is that pandemics have interestingly transformed not only the real estate industry, but many other industries as well. So you can look pre and post Spanish flu in New York, and you'll see a difference in the way the construction was built and how hot rooms get, and what they thought of could be caught. For example, a lot of the reasons that you might not have AC is because they might not build AC is simply because they don't want the ducts to exist. So therefore, how you cool off a place changes, which means it may get hotter than you would like. But that's a result of the Spanish flu, not anything other than that. It's like, oh, well, we need to make these changes because the population no longer wants certain things inside their real estate. That's not seen as a convenience. These are the things I'm talking about. And every industry is undergoing that. And chief among them, the ones that I'm concerned about the most are the ones that require density, like your theme parks, your restaurants. It's definitely restaurants, and movie theaters. These are the ones that I'm concerned about because they require density. A lot of people, small square footage, because their cost structure is way off if they can't get back to that, right? It was a risk opening a restaurant when you could have 100% capacity, whatever you were, licensed for. How much more of a risk now is it? Oh my God. I mean, we've all heard those jokes about it. Hey, if you want to make $1 million, open a restaurant and start with 2 million. Ta-da, you're down to 1. So, it is, yeah, it is. I don't know how, but innovation is required, right? Without innovation, entrepreneurial innovation, we're in trouble. And which means more people need to create more jobs, which means your ideas are great. Go use them, right? That's really where all of it comes from. So the trends around how schooling is done, that is going to be a permanent change. The trends around office and how that's done is going to be a permanent change. So the office real estate, it's in trouble. And at the same time, quality of life for a lot of employees is going to increase because here's what it's going to come down to. In a post-COVID society, the CFO is going to look at the numbers. Were we just as productive? Could we make just the same amount of profit, even though people were working at home? Because there was the thought process, we can't have employees work at home. They'll never get their work done, right? But now they know differently. So now the CFO is going to have to justify the cost and expense of housing, of an office. That's what's going to happen. And when they can't, they're going to let people stay home. And what's going to happen is that companies that force people to come to office are going to start to lose towards people who stay at home especially if they're in the same industry, because there'll be an efficiency of how that money is used that it'll be all told in the stock market, which is fine. It'll be there. I mean, there are so many things that'll change. In fact, the residential real estate landscape is going to change because the requirements of what you and I want in our house just changed dramatically. Nobody considered having to work from home and or school their kids from home full time when they were going, hey, where do we want to stay? Nope, that was not a thing. That wasn't a part of it. That's going to transform the construction industry. It's going to transform how realtors sell a house. I'm going to talk about something that's rapid change. The real estate is just going to get all kinds of blowed up right now because everything's been moved online except real estate, which means real estate's going to find its way online. It's going to get all blowed up. It's all going to be different, but it doesn't remove the need for certain fundamental things like a roof over the head, which is what we provide. So at the end of the day, hopefully that answers your question. Probably over answers it because I have been told about that before. Nonetheless, that's what I see. So hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. I do try to make sure that we answer things and give you the information that you need. In the meantime, though, here's what I'd love for you to do. For those of you on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Definitely, if the information you just heard is something exciting to you, you want to know how to put it into action, click the link in the description. Why? So that you can learn how to do it. We're going to take 2 days. We're going to break it down. We're going to share it with you and get you started. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.
Thank you.